All right, we're back. Tasty Crypto Show. I'm Ryan Grayson. With me today, of course, Dan Cecilia. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Second time on the network today. I was on my OTC live, with Ryan, Nick, and Mike.
Yeah, Tasty Live. Now they were sitting in for Tom and Tony, who I hear are in Mexico.
Oh.
So having a little vacation, I suppose, or a holiday, as our British friends would say. But you stepped in. You're doing double duty today.
Doing double duty, yeah. Until they tell me I can't be on anymore.
Well, we'll see. Appreciate you joining me here on the show. This is the second time we've done the show together this week. If you missed Monday, go check it out. We had the CIO of Mill City Ventures, the SUI, or SWE, depending on how you want to say it, treasury company that's launched recently. Had a great interview with him. Fantastic insights into the SUI ecosystem, kind of how they think about the investment, what's next for Mill City as well. So go check that out. And that will be linked in the email. If you're not on the email, get on the Tasty Crypto email list, tastycrypto.com, enter your email. I mean, it's pretty straightforward if you've used the internet. Dan, speaking of the internet, do you like talking to strangers on the internet?
I love talking to strangers on the internet.
I thought so. If you like talking to strangers on the internet, get your ass over to YouTube. We're streaming live. Pop out the chat. Type some crazy shit into the chat. We got Jose in there, Mark, Michael, James, Azinder, Ben, what's up? Brian, Emmett. Gang's all here. Dan is here. If you want to talk to Dan live, you want to distract him while he's on the show, he's also running, I guess, double duty here in the chat. So hit him up in there. And yeah, let's get into it, Dan. We've got a little bit of a bounce underway.
Yeah, I mean, the market opened really red. I feel like it was on a sell-off. I felt like we were going to go to 110 on Bitcoin. We got pretty close, and then we recovered here by the end of the day, and now we got a little bit of a bounce. So if we want to go and take a look at these performance dashboards, just to kind of get a brief update here, yeah, I mean, Bitcoin bounced right back up to, 114, trading around 114,000, ETH back up to 4,300. I thought you were going to get your chance to buy the dip at 4,000. Thought that's where it was going. Sol at 186. Like, all things considered, I feel like we bounced back, recovered a little bit here.
Yeah, it feels a lot better than it did this morning for sure. I'm just checking my account here to see where I did buy some ETH. Bought a little bit at 43.23. Or 43.15, excuse me. It's currently 43.23. Bought some at 41.50, 42.15, at some higher prices as well as we pulled back off of that 4,800 level on the way down. But yeah, didn't quite get that 4,000 number that we were looking for. But to put things in context, I mean, this move that we've seen over the last week off of those highs is well within the 1 week, one standard deviation estimated or expected move, whatever you want to call it, that we calculate based on the spot price and the implied volatility. So what that really means is the price action that we're seeing is not out of the ordinary. It's pretty much what the options market was pricing in a week ago. These are not static ranges, so we can rerun those ranges, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. But again, the price action is probably what you would have expected after just that massive run higher. The one thing I will point out, curious to get your thoughts on this, when we look at price momentum, we track those exponential moving averages in the crossovers, just a way to drive signals that help us to stay on the right side of the trend. Bitcoin, at least for now, flashing bearish, but we'll see if that holds, given you did get a pretty strong bounce back here. But as of right now, I do have that signal, and we've always said, look, we'll tell you when it looks bad. Not saying that it necessarily looks bad, but we can't ignore the fact that momentum did go neutral and now bearish on Bitcoin for a moment here. We'll see if that evolves into anything else. What do you think?
Yeah, so like I said before, I think we were going to always get a pullback after that kind of massive run up in July. You know, I would wait and see kind of where we begin to trade here. We've been ranging for the last couple of days. Obviously, that Fed minutes come out, or Fed FOMC minutes come out tomorrow.
Jackson Hole Economic Symposium, I believe, is the 23rd. There's typically a speech from Jerome Powell. It has been a stage for policy shifts, important policy shifts in the past, but I don't think that's necessarily expected. We'll get a little bit more clarity as to how they're kind of viewing this upcoming rate cut.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been reading headlines, reading some popular analysts I follow. Greg mentioned this in his newsletter. It's a wait and see approach with the FOMC or the the FOMC minutes, the Jackson Hole speech, and NVIDIA earnings. And I have seen there's been some weakness in NVIDIA chart or price action. So that affects Bitcoin, and that affects some of the liquidity in crypto. I think
that did bounce back quite a bit here today, though. So just quickly looking at NVIDIA, went down to sub 170 and right back to 175. So down about 0.1%, 24 cents to be exact. But yeah, trading higher post market. So strength, kind of dip buyers, I suppose, all around.
Yeah, for sure. We'll wait and see. I always thought August was going to be a weak month, given what happened in July. We have some headline news coming out. I think we'll see what we bounce back in September.
Let's take a look at the expected moves really quickly. These have been updated, so we'll talk some trade ideas, how we're trading the market here towards the end of the show. We've got some, headlines that we want to hit on, narratives that we want to talk about in just a second. But before we do, Bitcoin implied vol still near those lows. It's picked up a little bit here. ETH volatility has picked up a little bit as well. Realized vol continues to kind of leak lower, though, 28% on a 30-day annualized basis. Implied for Bitcoin, 37%. ETH at 71%. ETH nearing the top of the range, not quite there, but certainly the opposite direction of what we've seen with Bitcoin implied volatility trends. All that said, looking at the current expected moves, about a $6,000 move in Bitcoin, about a $400 move in ETH. In Bitcoin terms, that gets you back up to 120 on the upside and underneath 110 that you called out earlier here to start the show. ETH takes you back up near where we were, but not necessarily pricing in those new all-time highs that we saw when we were running these numbers last week. That said, the downside of that 1 week move right now is 3,900. It's trading pretty well, all things considered here. When you look at the short-term price action on a relative basis, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick ETH over Bitcoin. How do you think about that, or is there anything else that kind of stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have it up here, but the ETH Bitcoin ratio is still. It rebounded since the low in April. I kind of look at that, and if you're looking at kind of how that's traded, it's been sideways, but it's still trending upwards. So I think that gives an indication that ETH is stronger than Bitcoin right now, and there's been that rotation to ETH. Look, I just think when things run hot for all of September, ETH goes up 60%, 70% in the last 3 months. Pullbacks are expected. I still think the long-term trend here, given everything we know, is bullish.
Structurally, that's still what we see. Everything is in place that supports that today. We'll
have to monitor data, monitor the broader kind of macro environment. Obviously, flows in ETFs have been a little bit weaker this week, but I still think ETH is probably the stronger play here.
Yeah, I agree with you, and like you said, you look at ETH BTC, that could trade towards 5/100ths of a Bitcoin. I think, look, in this market environment, again, it probably gets you to a $5,000 ETH price off of these levels. Nice move today. I think Bitcoin goes higher. If we see anything that changes in terms of what we read, what we look at, what we try to pay attention to, or the signals that we drive from the market here, we'll let you know. But as of right now, you got a dip, and it seems like, you can never really fully price in where it's going to go, obviously. But from a timing perspective, I think this is the pullback again we're looking for, and happy to buy at 439, at 42, right? It's probably irrelevant if you think that we get to from 4 to 6, 4 to 5. Did you buy it at 4.2? You buy it at 4.1? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So short-term trading ranges here. Let's talk a little bit more about what else we're seeing in the market. There are a ton of I wouldn't call them catalysts necessarily, but when you look at headlines, you look at what's on the radar. Everyone has ignored seemingly over the last couple of days the SEC chair just talking about crypto and the United States being seen as an innovator here in that space. You've got a lot of, I think, just bullish whispers, bullish narratives in the air. Let's talk about some of these here. Maybe starting with stablecoins. You brought this to my attention earlier today, Dan. Wyoming, I guess, what's the deal here? Launching a stablecoin?
Yeah, so Wyoming is the first public entity in the United States to issue a stable token called...
Public enemy or public entity?
Public entity. Did I say public enemy?
No, I just didn't. I can't hear. No, I'm just messing with you.
But could be public enemy.
I'm throwing you off.
Stable token called the Frontier Stable Token, ticker FRNT.
Okay.
This was launched on August 19th. Wyoming has always been kind of at the forefront of the digital asset space. I don't know if, Wyoming has very popular, friendly legislation for digital assets.
I think that's where Senator Loomis is from.
Yeah. So they've always kind of been at the forefront. So just 3 major points here. It's a historic first U.S. public entity to launch this government-backed digital currency. Multi-blockchain availability. So FRNT will be on Arbitrum, Avalanche, Base, Ethereum, Solana, a couple others. So there's widespread adoption and interoperability there. And then strong financial backing. I think this is one of the most important parts. Token is fully backed by US dollars and short duration treasuries held in a trust. Legislation mandates 2% over collateralization. So it's an over collateralized stable token. Seems pretty safe, seems pretty secure. And the token will be available for purchase on Kraken and a Visa integrated card platform called Rain. I'd never heard of that. Avalanche, I guess we'll have to look into that. Never heard of that one, but broader public availability will be coming soon. And I think it's pretty interesting announcement.
It's interesting. Well, let me ask you why. I mean, this is a great headline. It's certainly bullish on the surface, right? States are launching stablecoins. Does that matter? I guess what I'm trying to understand is who's going to use this, or what's the use case? Maybe it doesn't need a use case. Maybe this is more novelty. I don't know.
Well, I think maybe it's kind of like one of those things where they're going to earn a yield off of it, and maybe have some reason for people to adopt it. I don't know. To your point, I don't know who's would be using this. I would just use US dollar coins still, but maybe they'll offer some type of yield. Maybe they'll offer some integration with a major payment provider. It might just be.
You talked about the integration with the Visa, the card. I think it's a
Visa card provider, Rain.
Yeah. Rain. Yeah.
So maybe there's something there. I'm guessing they have to. If they're holding stable coins, they're going to earn that short-term treasury interest, right? So
maybe it's just people's preferred token. I like to use the Wyoming dollar.
Have you been to Wyoming? You've been to Wyoming.
I've been to Jackson Hole, where the Fed's hanging out with all their buddies.
You've spoken at the
maestros of monetary policy are all there right now.
You own land out there, don't you?
I have a friend that owns like a house in a front yard that's considered land. But yeah, Jackson Hole is cool. Wyoming is an awesome place. It's beautiful out there.
And now they have a stablecoin.
And we're gonna have to trade it, or I guess acquire some.
Some.
Chainlink, big mover. You were on the show earlier today, as you mentioned. If I recall correctly, Chainlink. Let's see here. If we go to highest volatility, Chainlink has been one of the higher volatility tokens that are offered through the Tasty Trade platform. At the time, up 52% last 3 months, up 14% on the week. I think it's a little bit higher here. I got 26.47 on my screen, so even better than this morning. What's going on with Chainlink? What's behind the move?
I think it's just all the integrations here. I'm looking at stories of 2025. Network activity reached nearly 10,000 active addresses. Whales accumulating over 1.3 million link. Bullish sentiment there. Data streams for U.S. equities and ETFs were launched in August 14th. Chainlink Reserve was launched as an on-chain treasury to accumulate link. It just seems like people are buying up Link, and there's reasons to own it. That's causing a bullish price action on it. And out of any of these protocol tokens, Chainlink is the one that's the most integrated, both in TradFi and DeFi. So just seems like the sentiment's good. Seems like people are scooping it up. Tokens are coming off chain. So
to that point, they launched data streams for U.S. equities and ETFs. Bridging that gap, as you mentioned, between TradFi and DeFi. They've got a partnership with the Intercontinental Exchange, ICE, different ICE than maybe some people are familiar with. They just launched the Chainlink Reserve, on-chain treasury that's funded by both on-chain service fees from the network as well as off-chain enterprise revenues. I don't know what that means exactly, but it could be coming from some of these partnerships that they're spinning up. But basically, what we're seeing with some of these corporate treasury vehicles, some of these other vehicles, you're now seeing that spill over to alts. We talked about SUI again with Mill City Ventures, with the CIO there, Stephen McIntosh, on Monday. But you're seeing this across the board, which I think, like, short term, it's good. It feels good. It gives it a boost. I think it's sustainable. But when I look at some of the maybe the tokens that play a real role in bridging, TradFi, DeFi, kind of when you think about DeFi tokens, Link isn't always included because people look at it as an oracle, but the role that oracles will play in that system, I mean, it's core to it.
Right. Yeah.
Let's jump into the chart.
Yeah, let's take a look at the chart. We'll bring up the platform here.
Because we're at 26.56 now, trading towards the high end of the range.
Let's see.
Yeah, if we can get the chart on the screen here, just want to see where it's come from. So, I mean, here's 2025. This was $6, $7, $8 a while ago. But if we just zoom out a little bit and you look at the prior cycle, you go back to 2021, and at the time, right, it's hard to understand what was driving this. Sometimes it's just FOMO in the market. But, we did have a price of $50. Doesn't mean that we get back there, but this isn't new all-time highs for Chainlink. This is, and you see this pattern in many different tokens, bottomed out, just left for dead for the better part of almost 2 years. And basically 2 years here. And we're seeing a lot better trading activity. So I think if you're looking for altcoin season, this is another one that I would have on the radar. I personally don't think that it's altcoin season necessarily just yet. There's been more of kind of a back and forth between Bitcoin and ETH from a relative performance perspective. But this would be one along with Uniswap, which we're working to bring to the platform, along with Aave, which is on the platform on tastytrade already. Those are some that I think, when you look at the real world use cases, you look at users on chain, you look at the actual revenues derived from fees, like it's real.
Yeah. I think that, like, I call it the DeFi 1.0 trade. So
legacy stuff from the first time around.
Yeah.
Summer.
Uniswap, Aave, Compound to some extent, Curve, Pendle is another one, not on the platform, a little bit out there. You guys can look at, it's called Pendle, PNDLE. And then Chainlink, some of these oracles that are generating revenue. I mean, these are real protocols with real users. So looks like that might break out. I mean, if you go back to 2021 to see how it launched, like I still think that's kind of got some room to run there. So definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, just looking at 21 here, and it sold off sharply, but yeah, there could be some room to go, like you said. We'll run the expected moves on this and start to pull that into our dashboards a little bit more. But let's jump back to the slides really quickly. A lot of this you'll see is related. We've talked about Wyoming. Let's talk about Senator Loomis. I saw a headline earlier today. Everyone seems to be pretty positive, pretty confident that we're going to get a crypto market structure bill on Trump's desk by Thanksgiving. What does that mean? That would imply really passage of the bill and some rules here, regulation around crypto market structure. You got the Clarity Act looking at, is it going to be the SEC, the CFTC? How is that divvied up? We'll do a deeper dive there. But just heads up, if you're looking for a catalyst and you're looking for a time frame, maybe you have one. This is not necessarily new information. We've been aware that this is making its way through Congress. We just recently got the Genius Act passed. That's huge for stablecoins. Now we move on to the next possibly and bigger catalyst here, which is the broader regulation in crypto market structure. That said, Senator Loomis from Wyoming, stablecoins, Wyoming, the first state to launch stablecoins. I want to just quickly look at stablecoin market cap,
Okay.
Dan, because last time we checked, it was $250 billion. It's $277 billion today, up $5 billion in the last 7 days. Tether minted $1 billion on ETH the other day. It's off to the races, and I have seen some headlines that analysts believe, for whatever that's worth or that means, we could have a multi-trillion-dollar stablecoin market cap at some point.
I was reading that too, and I think I've said this before. Stablecoin flows are an indication of activity on chain. It's an activity of flows to the broader crypto ecosystem. So that's a great trend. I think the more
this is what you want to see.
This is what I want to see. Yes, exactly. I do have a quick comment from the chat on this. Jose asked, with the popularity and adoption of stablecoins, will wrapped crypto tokens be needed in the future? I think it depends on which wrapped tokens you're talking about. I don't necessarily see stablecoins being similar to like wrapped Bitcoin. Like wrapped Bitcoin is getting liquidity of Bitcoin onto other chains. So I think they're two different things, but definitely stablecoin market cap increasing like it has is a good indication of liquidity on chain, which is bullish in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think there's substitutes. I think, what you're seeing here, right? These are dollars with a token wrapper. So I think that's the theme that, look, we're already seeing. It's not whether I think this or not. You're already seeing this, right? You hear the tokenization of securities, the tokenization of equities, real world assets. All this stuff is kind of commingled. It's the same thing in many cases. What are we talking about here? We're talking about token wrappers, the representation of these assets on a blockchain network. There's efficiencies to be gained from that. There's a lot of flexibility, I think, composability as well that comes from it. So that, I think, is the theme. And I also think you probably do see more representations of Bitcoin, of collateral on these other chains.
Right.
We talked about this to some extent on Sui with Steven on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think they're not substitutes, a little bit different, but in general, I think they're probably going to be, you're going to see more of them probably, especially for Bitcoin across these different chains. So did you dig into this bill at all real quick? I
haven't looked at it that closely. Okay. We've got to do a deep dive there. We'll bring that out next week as we get closer, because if that's the time frame, it's only a couple of months away here. Does give you maybe some catalyst, right? It's not like the market doesn't know this or isn't starting to price some things in, but could be that there's an opportunity to get long some call options. Maybe you want to own some upside tail risk. I don't know. I think it's just, again, another box to check. We've known that this is likely coming. There's a lot of positive catalysts. In the space of the time, it doesn't mean the price is going to go straight up, but we're still pretty positive given all of the developments that are on the horizon. Dan, all that said, we got about 5 minutes or so left in the show. What are you trading? How are you trading it? How are you thinking about markets? Really enjoyed listening to your perspective on kind of, I call it loading the boat, and your approach to using GTCs, limit orders at certain levels where you want to buy or sell. That said, if you want to check that out, tune into the earlier Tasty Live show. What are you looking at right now? What's on your radar? We talked about ETH over Bitcoin as one way to look at this. Anything else that stands out to you?
Yeah, so like I said on the morning show, I think the way to play this is to play the ranges and have limit orders in, at the bottom of those ranges where you can catch a wick down if there's a sell-off, because like you've seen today, usually the market recovers pretty quickly, so you want to catch that move. That's a really simple way to play it with spot, with what we offer on the platform. Another one that I looked at and we mentioned before was Greg Magadini from Amadeus Trade. That's the MSTU or MSTR or MSTU. You can sell upside, sell the volatility in MSTR, and use that to finance the ETH ETF.
Okay, so you'd be coming in here, and we'll just pick some arbitrary expirations here, but let's just say that we're in September, 30-day expiration. You can see the implied volatility on a per strike basis here. The smooth VIX style calculations about 79% vol, and you are selling what on the surface looks like some pretty juicy premium. The underlying price here is $340. Right. You could go to the $440 just to make it easy, $100 away, and you're getting paid about $250 to sell that strike. At the same time, you're going in and you're going to, let's say, ETH, is that right?
ETH, yeah.
And you're financing a long call position?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So I'd want to do this in the same expiration. You can see we've got some spreads on in here already, but depending on how you want to price this, you could do a call spread, but you would go long this. And again, you're just using that premium in MSTR to finance this position. The idea, or what makes this real, is that they're both positively correlated. That needs to be true. It is most of the time. ETH and Bitcoin are going in the same direction. Not 100% of the time, but it's pretty close. That said, that's the trade idea here, or conceptually how you might approach this.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really interesting trade, especially for utilizing the options and some of the volatility there on the platform. So it's either that, or let's take advantage of some of these dips and get in and have your limit order set. Yeah,
because I think, just sticking with this for 1 second, it would be odd to me if MSTR went up $100, implying that Bitcoin was just ripping, and in this environment right now, ETH doesn't move, right? So I can sell that in that same expiration, and you have to have the buying power available to be able to put this trade on, of course. but we're getting 250 for the what we say 420, 430 call in MSTR and strategy. And you could come in here and you could buy the 34. You could probably just buy the 33. So you're in the trade for 20 some cents. You have unlimited upside on this position. You're going to take on some risk, but you need MSTR to move 100 points. You could probably make up a good chunk of that here, in terms of that, how you think about that spread. So there's some risks, obviously, but an interesting idea and some different ways to structure it.
Exactly. How about you? Is there anything you're looking at? You have a ton of trades on here. So
I'll just jump over to the follow page, and you can see what I've been doing on here, at least as of recently, just kind of buying ETH, buying Bitcoin on the dip. In some cases, still underwater on some of these recent trades. So as we pulled back, and again, remember, Bitcoin was 123. We've got an expected move right now on a weekly basis, takes us maybe to 120. Bought some at 116, 115, 114, all the way down. Trying to, for the most part, and just for context on these trades here, because it could be, $1, it could be $10. I try to do about $100 per trade on this. So scale into stuff, scale out of stuff. If you see 4 or 5 trades come in, I'll probably sell 4 or 5 trades to get out. Maybe not all the time, but just to give you a sense of the size. We're not coming in here with, $1 million and buying one coin at a time or anything like that. But in terms of how we're just trading it and some of the price signals that we're seeing, that's where we're at. Bought a little bit of Litecoin at 119. You can see we're under on that right now. But as you can tell, adding some SUI or SUI here, but primarily has been ETH and Bitcoin over the last few days. And if we get a pop here, might look to sell out of some of this stuff as a trade. Do we think it's going higher over time? We do. That said, I want to trade around these positions actively. So if I bought some at 41.50 and it gets back to 4,500 really quickly, I'll take that trade off. Decent little percentage return, in a few days if you can get it. That's what I love about crypto is the volatility, the realized volatility here on a very short time frame. In some cases, you get that with the equity market, but it's pretty standard here in crypto, which is what I like.
It makes for a fun trade. It really does.
Well, Dan, that's going to do it for our show. Appreciate you joining me here as always. We'll be back next week. What's on tap next week? I think we've got some guests coming up. What's on the schedule?
Monday, we'll do the Tasty Crypto show regular with probably me and you or Shelly and you or, whatever. It'll be just us. And then Greg is coming on Wednesday.
Hell yeah, so Greg's coming back.
We'll get an update there and we'll see what trades he has for us.
Beautiful. Tune in to that. Are you on Liz and Jenny? Is anybody else on any other shows this week?
Shelly will be on Liz and Jenny Monday, I think.
Awesome.
And then we'll pop in probably tomorrow or Friday on one of the morning shows.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Get your fix. Crypto, Tasty Live. This has been the Tasty Crypto Show. As always, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week. But before we sign off, if you're not on the Tasty Crypto email newsletter list, get over to tastycrypto.com and sign up. We put out 2 emails a week. Maybe we'll do more, maybe we'll do less. It's a work in progress. But you get all of these dashboards, you get our commentary, you get the trading ranges. I think it acts as a decent guide for the markets if you're looking for something like that. But sign up over at tastycrypto.com, or it's also, if you're on YouTube, it's pinned into the chat. But that said, this is the Tasty Crypto Show. We'll be back next week. Until then, I'm Ryan.
I'm Dan.
Peace.